All right, so we're going to introduce ourselves, and we are not comedians, so we're just getting that right out of the way.
Clearly.
Can we put up the...
Oh, yeah, do you have a perfect
Woohoo!
cue? Oh, look at, are you moving the... Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go. So hopefully this is the question that you all came to have answered. Is anyone in the wrong room? Anyone
Who's Al?
hoping that Al would answer a different question?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all in the right place. And so let me tell you who is going to be answering these questions. So first we're going to meet Nick. Nick, I want you to tell us something you've used AI for that was just super helpful, productive, creative, interesting.
Yeah, that picture is AI. So how about that? I wish I owned that jacket. I kind of want to get that jacket now, but that's not there. That's not real. So that's one thing I used it for that's fun. How about that? More than that, or?
You know, if that's the most interesting thing you've used it for.
I mean, the most interesting thing I've used it for is I've been able to determine that generally speaking, I now know categorically through AI that women are on artificially and showing more positive sentiment at events than men are, and in doing so, they're less likely to be gaining education or succeeding in networking through little cameras that are right there in events like this. So that's the most interesting thing I've done it, because now I'm thinking about design and how the fact that I have never gone through an event and thought about how many times I needed to smile in my life, and I never will. And other people here may have had that thought, and you're using that finite energy to do that, and using sensors to figure that out. It was super interesting to me, because now I'm thinking, oh geez, 50% of the planet's not getting as much out of events as they could. So that's the most extreme thing I've used it for.
That's very insightful. We're going to talk a little bit more about accessibility and some of those things a little later. But first we want to meet Tahira. Tahira, what's the most interesting thing you've used AI for?
Just things that are speedy. So, wow, I'd really like to make a table for this. Boom, there's a table. I'd like to figure out how I'm going to plan a 3-day event. Makes a 3-day event perfectly in a great hotel, perfectly destination specific. I could actually send it to a client, but I should probably just tweak a couple of things so it looks like I didn't use AI. And then I'm going to write my welcome letter to send to my sales incentives, and that happens in about 6 seconds. And it's pretty good too. And then I need a theme song for the event, so we write that in about 6 seconds. So we're just having fun with seeing what the possibilities are.
Yeah, and I think that's the trick, is we talked about the value of play at events. Play with it, have fun with it, use it. I'm going to tell you a little story of how I used it. Is, as you can see, I am a Gigi to 2 alphas, a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my son turned 29 last week, and I asked him what he wanted for his birthday, and he didn't know. He's not. And then I asked my daughter, who is the mother of the 2 toddlers, and usually she tells us all what to do, but she was busy with the toddlers, and so she had no idea. So I asked AI, and it took some iterations, right? So I had to put in what he liked, I had to put in my relationship to him. It came back with a fabulous idea I never would have thought of, which was, in this particular case, he loves anime, and so it's a subscription to Japanese snacks that comes once a month. So he'll think of his mother once a month when he eats Japanese snacks and watches anime. And so I thought that was super cool. The other thing that we used it for is to create the cover of this magazine that I've got here up front. We were doing a story, we did a poll and a white paper with help from Zenas about AI, and we thought, well, then let's have AI make the cover. So we went into DALL-E and we put in what we wanted. We want it in this style, we want a rainbow on the right, we want it darker on the left, we want business people, and this is what it came out with. And then my art director made it look like a cover, but I mean, that took 5 minutes to make the cover of the magazine.
You tried to entice people to sit at the front by putting magazines up here, but
I entice you, yeah. You can grab them, because I'm not taking them back to San Francisco with me, so they will be here. But inside of that is the article, and so what we thought we would do here today, we did a survey of our community. And then I would like to know in the last 2 months if the results have changed, and if maybe the results of people in this area are maybe even more sophisticated than company-wide. So let's, by a show of hands, let's ask, how would you describe your attitude toward AI? So would you say you will absolutely not be using any in that category? Oh, see, everyone here is at least going to try.
No one's planning like Amish events or anything like that?
But that matches our results. So are you
comedian.
worried about the implications?
If we were in Pennsylvania, you'd get like one.
Anyone worried? No one's worried. You're all confident.
Yeah, what's so worried about AI? It's no big deal. You guys, no one's seen Terminator, right? Don't watch the end. It's grim.
Are you AI curious? Any AI curious? We've got some AI curious. Yeah, that's about a third of you, 29%, so we're tracking here. Have you used it but not professionally? Have you asked it to send a birthday present or a card or a, yeah, okay. So again, it went down a little bit. We're tracking. Have you embraced it? Are you just an AI master? We've got an AI master here. You've embraced it. You've embraced it. You want to know what it is that you're doing. I think that's great. So I think that as you're going around the country and the world, are you finding that the biggest group of people is people who are said, I guess I better embrace it? Or do you find people are a little more worried about the implications?
Yeah, I would say somewhere between worried and curious for most event organizers. That's primarily the groups I'm talking to. It's generally an industry that has lagging tech adoption, and I think for good reasons. Like, I don't do that as an indictment like most technology people do that are selling things to planners. I think they do it as like because every day is them not selling to someone, so it's a real grind. I don't think that. I think that there's a real valid reason as to why we are lagging. That's because we would rather have something that's battle tested and works for sure than something that is bright, new, and shiny. So I think
Let's validate that. So say what you just said again.
Ooh.
yeah, okay. So if you have on one side, it's boring, it's predictable, and it will work every single time. And on the other side, it is exciting and mind-blowing, and it's 50-50. It could fail. Who's going for this side?
Mind-blowing.
Will work. Okay, and then who wants to blow people's minds and you could fail? All right, some risk takers, but
Yeah.
they're not the majority. So good for you. And also, it's slanted because you're here, so like you're obviously people who are yearning to learn more and to adopt things, so like it's probably, you're a high percentage, and I would say the people that aren't here are definitely more on this side. So I see a lot of trepidation, I think rightfully so. There's been a lot of other technologies that have come down throughout the years that have made calluses in the organizer's mind, and I think this is seen as if it was one of those. And I don't see AI as a technology. It's a layer to every other technology. So your ability to not use it is not possible. Sorry.
It's not new.
It's not new. It isn't. It's just matured. But it is inevitable as a layer to everything you're using. Like, I mean, most people here love, for some reason, Excel. Excel's gonna it's gonna have autopilot. So guess what? You're using AI. It's kind of the end. I don't think there's going to be refrigerators without AI, right? Like, why do we know how much milk we have in our refrigerator? Like, that should be taken care of.
We won't have a choice, but we will have a choice how we use it. So let's ask some more poll questions. So right now, do you think that the talk of, and again, this group might be biased because they're in this room, but do you think it is mainly hype? Who says hype? And who says that it's moderately valuable? Yeah, it's gonna maybe help you make that agenda. It's gonna maybe, help you write a couple of emails. Who says this changes everything? All right. So I think we've got the inverse from 2 months ago. So that's a big shift in just 2 months, or in a area of the country that maybe embraces things quicker.
Yeah, if there's a concurrent session that's on, like, tablescapes happening right now, they're probably the hype people, right? So I think these are the people that are excited about AI and enough to choose this over other, maybe barbecue. What else is going on right now? Like some really good choices. Isn't there barbecue here? Yeah, I don't know if I'm making the same choice if I'm you. I mean, I feel the pressure. That stuff sounds good. Yeah, it is game changing in as much as it's positive game changing and negative game changing as far my viewpoint. In as much as the threats and challenges of people who don't have half of your skills coming into your world and competing with you is very high. Like doing the same thing that you've always done is something that can be easily replicated and cut and paste by people with technology.
About easily replicated things, because what we're definitely seeing, so I have a good friend who owns an executive recruiting firm, and so she's starting to, daily she's getting cover letters, and now they're all starting to look the same.
Yeah.
Like literally 12 came in a 1 week period that were the same letter. So do all of our agendas and cool programs start to look the same? There's a risk of that on the one hand. So
yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just find the 10 best events within whatever community that you serve and ask AI to synthesize the best of, essentially, of all those things. And it will give you the greatest hits of the agenda, the menu, how it was produced, et cetera. It's not creating anything new. It's synthesizing from what it already has been. So if your goal is to design competitive events, you have to be able to create something that's never been done, because what has been done will be able to be created instantaneously and at scale.
can we ask a question of our audience,
Yes,
specifically of Brent and Arlene, who are doing game-changing events? I'm curious, did you use AI when you planned to go west? No AI. So you did an awesome event, still from your human brains. Congratulations.
And we want to get to that, getting from a B to an A+, but I think we've got one more poll question here. What would it take for you to use AI for attendee data collection? So we're going to talk a little bit about what AI is good for and what it's not good for. Data, I think, falls in the category of what it is good for. So would you use AI for data collection if it's inexpensive? Is it the cost that is appealing to you? Who here is looking at the costs of AI and thinking, I can save some money if it does AI, if it manages my data instead of me hiring an analyst? And who says if it helps me generate more revenue? The other side of the cost is the income. Who's using AI data collection to help you generate more revenue, either by knowing who registers or having some of that feedback? What about if it overcame any of your security concerns? We found in our survey that some people's companies just told them, you can't use it. We won't allow you to use it on our computers because we're afraid of security, and that's valid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's enterprise solutions more and more so now that overcome a lot of those initial issues with AI, because AI is not something you use, it's something that you teach. And it's something that you train. So if you have, I think I've said this before, but the Coke recipe and you put it in there, everyone could potentially know the Coke recipe. So any version of that is possible. The enterprise solutions for most AI allow you to have a one-to-one relationship where you're not sharing information with the AI that it shares with the entire user base. So there are possibilities to overcome that. They're just expensive. And then there's a few,
cost.
Yeah, exactly. So these are all, I would say, somewhat intertwined. I think for the most part, people aren't using data collection at events because it's seen as a nice to have right now as opposed to a need to have. And I think that's not going to last very long because of the expectations investors are going to have in events. They're going to want more ROI in a world that makes the same event we've always been creating faster, easier, and you're going to have to be able to stand out in some way.
I'm curious about who is using AI in any kind of technology like Zenus, where you've got the anonymous facial recognition. One person, anybody else using any kind of facial recognition or data collection in that manner with AI? No?
RFID.
Heat mapping.
It's not widely used. Like we're a niche, property, and we're new on the scene. There's no one else doing what we do. But our main competition really is guts. just going by your gut. This was a good event. This was a bad event, you know, and we all know that somehow, and we're probably right. We do.
So I'll tell you some results I found, if you would like to know, that I found fascinating from, so if you read the slide while we were talking, I work at IMEX, so large trade show for the event industry, and we had Zenus on our hub, along with other technologies. So we use a number of technologies to know how the audience is behaving and reacting to what is being delivered so that we can continue to get better at it. What was interesting was, everyone's like, oh, everyone wants to, speak on Tuesday. All the best education's on Tuesday. Nobody wants to speak on Thursday. Thursday's the worst day to present. What we learned is that on Tuesday, we had the highest numbers and the least engagement. On Thursday, we had the lowest numbers, but the most engaged learners. So by sentiment analysis, which is
you only
really
know what you know, and I think a lot of times we're generally right with our guts, because I think the event organizers had to have a really refined gut, because that's been the only metrics that we've had. So I think we're really good at it, and good enough that we probably trick ourselves into thinking we know everything. It's getting 10% better or 5% better that we're really not good at. We can make a really good hypothesis and get 80% and 90% right every single time because we're that good. But if I were to say, how do you improve by 10% next year, no one has a clue.
And
that's
that
tough.
10%, just we have 10% more people. Is that what matters?
How do you measure it? Yeah.
Lots of other, you can iterate on any level of an event, but iterative means that you have to think less like straight line binary thinking of we need a better event or a better speaker. It needs to be, how do we make this one presentation just a little bit better? Like even our technology allows us to see where sessions are doing well with people under 40. Do you know that right now? Like, this was rated high, but was it rated high with people? And if you want to grow that segment, if that's a goal, if you're not looking at something that specific, you can't do it. So getting out of the binary thinking is something that AI is really good at, because it just takes, even your post-event survey data. Like I read that and I'm 3 surveys in and I'm like, I can't read this anymore. Squeaky chairs, dry chicken. I'm like, this is not what
Snacks.
Yeah, like it's nonsense. But if you can use generative AI to comb through that and just get the information that's valuable, that is genial to the things that you're trying to do, and it combs through that, or it gives you a sentiment, a score for every piece that's put out, and you can arrange that to that, then it becomes useful and valuable. And you can say, okay, we were at a 5.6 last year. Let's get to a 6.5 this year. Now you're talking about actionable things. So if you're just saying, like, how do we make the person who had the squeaky chair not have a squeaky chair, you just skip it.
So that same son has a master's in quantitative economics, and he would say, that's about taking the data set and getting rid of those outliers and being able to, and we do at Smart Meetings, we do 8 events a year, and if we can put all that data in and find out the relevant through threads of what makes people like an event and what makes people not, that's the best way to. And this warmed my heart. The thing people wanted to use it the most for was improve the attendee experience, which is what everyone in this room is here trying to do, right? So let's talk about how AI might help us do that. So tell us the new cliche.
Yeah, AI is not going to replace you. It could. I mean, this is my optimistic thing. I think it's not going to replace you in as much as the people that showed up here. I think it could replace the people that don't. I think it could replace the people whose goal is to figure out how they can use AI to just get things done faster. I think in that spirit, yeah, half of them, they'll be gone. I think if you're using AI to get better and to challenge yourself and to go further, it's not going to replace you, because what we do is inherently messy and inherently creative, and it should be doing new grounds, and AI is not good at any of those things.
I'm going to give you a little throwdown. I told Nick I was going to give him a little throwdown in this. So you said your magazine cover, started by AI, finished by your art director. We're definitely seeing more of that. Now, anybody who knows Nick knows that he has 1 or 2 comic books.
I sold 30,000 of them last year, and I'm down to just my favorite 12,000.
So my son is 25, and we were talking about AI. He's a visual effects artist, a compositor for film and television. And he texted me this morning, and he said, I've been thinking more about our AI conversation. Now, first of all, that's cool, because that doesn't usually happen. But he said, specifically to art, he said, if they don't care enough to create it themselves, why should I care enough to consume it?
Yeah.
So my question is, like, of all the comic books that you have, would you feel happier or sadder if they were being generated by AI?
I don't think I'd care if it was as good. And I think it would be different. So I keep thinking about this idea. There was a time where if you wanted a portrait, you had to go to a very specialized, trained human being, and he would create your portrait with paint.
It was always a he.
Oh yeah, I'm speaking. There was no. Yeah, exactly. So you went to this person who didn't have to sell apples for a living, and got to paint for a living, right? And that was a specialized skill, and what have you. Then there became a mechanized version for capturing images that technology did, and that person was threatened. Their livelihood was taken away as being the exclusive domain of creating portraits, and yet people still create portraits, they still paint, and photography is an art too. So do I think one is better than the other or will replace it? I don't think so. I think an equilibrium will be struck, because what we got out of that is new art movements that wouldn't have happened if there wasn't actual realism captured. So it pivots and moves and changes. So my feeling is that there'll be a shift, and it won't replace it. People will go in another direction. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you have a...
What would be the AI equivalent comics where I'll buy anything by Garth Ennis? So what would be the AI equivalent, for example, in comics? I'd buy anything by Garth Ennis.
I have a signed Punisher #1 from Garth Ennis. Yeah, it would likely be the prompt engineer utilizing the AI, and that was quite good at it, because the input that they put in would have an output that would be memorable and unique enough that it would be sticky enough for me to have an affinity for it. It's paint. It's not something else. It's a new paint. It's a new medium, I think. But I do have qualms with the use of AI that steals. Like someone who would say, give me a comic written in the style of Garth Ennis. That is an issue that I have that would be tricky, right? So taking from someone else and deriving it from them, but I think it's going to keep moving. I honestly think like content, and like what you do, for instance, I've been saying for years that content is usually about the person reading it, about the impact it has on them. So everyone's always been trained on being objective and being out of it. I don't think that's going to last. Like, I think that AI is objective because it doesn't have a self. So I think moving forward, all art that's going to be useful or palatable or attractive is going to be one that's going to be rooted in the person's identity who creates it. Like, you're going to have to know why they created it. You're going to have a human connection based on vulnerability and authenticity. And if you don't have that, then for some reason it's just not going to feel good. You're not going to like it.
That personal element, I
Yeah,
agree.
bring yourself into it. Yeah, sorry.
It's a recording thing.
Sorry. Going back to what you said earlier about, that's okay. Going back to what you had said earlier about the synthesizing, where synthesize from the best events in the area. Where does it derive that best from?
Yeah, it can scrape nearly anything that you give it, so you'd have to have access to that. But like I would say, like using a website that would have the full agenda of an event. Or any other information that they have. Even, you could say, if you had access to, and seemingly people are trying to sell these all the time, the lists of who attended it, and you could reverse engineer who those people are and who those personas are in order to derive what those people would want. So these are the people that attended your event. You get a hold of that list, and then you could use AI to create something that would be attractive to that group. So it would be like reverse survivor bias.
If those lists were
They're
actual
probably garbage.
people.
Yeah. But you could still, who knows? But like anything that you can scrape, you can synthesize. And at the end of it, the best it can do is what has been. An organized, optimized what has been. And to me, that just means that the challenge is that we need to create things that have never been.
And it's also, when we talk about scraping, when we first started, let's just use ChatGPT and its 100 million users as the base example. But last year, when we were using it, and you'd start doing that kind of work, it would say, I'm sorry, it would actually say to you, I'm sorry, but I only have data up until 2020. Now it's saying, I'm sorry, I only have data up until 2022. So given Moore's sort of exponential law of technology, it's going to, by the end of this year, it's going to be pretty much caught up.
Yeah.
So many people using
Gemini
it. So.
has access to Google's index, so that's today, and Bing as attachment to ChatGPT 4. Anything around limitations is very finite. It won't be limited anymore.
There's also on the opposite side where we've said it's not going to replace you, but it's going to replace people who don't embrace it. I had a very random call last year it was a research group working with large mice clients around the world who were looking to have experts that their clients could talk to validate the information that they were working on. And they said, we found you on LinkedIn and you rate very high on ChatGPT. And I was like, interesting. Like, so obviously, like, what am I putting in there? I don't know. But, as I was playing around with it, I'm sure I was putting in a lot of event things at the beginning of playing around with it. So, but that's kind of a flip side of it that was a surprising use of AI to me.
Yeah, it's like SEO. I mean, I had a group of CVB people ask me, what can I do to show up on, higher in these things? And I was like, well, let me do a search on ChatGPT right now to find the 5 most dangerous cities in the United States to bring my conference to. And you guys want to watch the results? And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, it's there. And they're like, how would we come off of that? And I was like, be less dangerous. I mean, really, in SEO, I could tell you how to come off that. You would do campaigns of keyword insertions, buy your way out of it, create content, etc. ChatGPT is scraping the news. It's scraping things that are everything and adding it all up and giving various weights to it at different levels. That it's more complicated than that. So I basically say you just be good. That's how you rank higher.
Well,
and that's what people want, right?
It does scrape everything. We did a story about using AI for contracts, and I'm not going to name the company, but a large retailer was using it for their contracts and found their language popping up in ChatGPT everywhere, right? Their proprietary clauses.
I had a dinner or an event or drink last night, I guess, with a guy who said that he used another group that's here's contract to scrape theirs and build his contract based off theirs.
It's
Just
happening.
saying, yeah, it's out there. I mean, ChatGPT is not a lawyer, but
but it
neither am
knows
I.
a lawyer,
Oh,
watches
but,
one on TV.
It basically is a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people are using it that way. Like, I need to start a business plan. Here's my idea, boom. It's shooting you out a business plan. I mean, it's
roles are good.
So there are a lot of things where you're still going to want to edit it. You're still going to want to think about it. Students who are using it are finding probably the most trouble because as soon as it'll pull references, but it just will make some of them up.
Hallucinations.
So you might have one that's a valid reference, and you might have 3 or 4 that are just hallucinations. So you can't actually take everything verbatim. Oh, shocking! It's the internet. But there are a lot of good ways that it can be used, and the things like the replacing people who don't embrace it. I think it's about finding the people who are going to understand how we can start to use it more smartly. Is that good English or really bad English?
Ask ChatGPT. Yeah,
I mean Grammarly.
Grammarly, yeah. Yeah, honestly, the reason that this is the truth and not a maybe, I think, is because anytime you're using ChatGPT, it gives you a better starting point. So if you're going to say, no, what I create is better than ChatGPT or AI creates, I would agree with you, it probably is. However, it took you longer to get there than you needed. And in fact, if you started further ahead, you would have got further along than you would have without it. So you can use it to get rid of the blank page and have something that inspires you to think differently. And you could scrap 90% of what it gives you, but I'm telling you, you're going to do better by looking at that versus looking at the blank page.
No more blank pages.
No more blank. And I'll use the example that I used at the beginning of. So it was a year ago that I was speaking where it was at a conference where it's a group of event planners and I made a table for our incentive program. I made it gave us all of the things. So it gave us the welcome letter. It gave us and we did all of that in under 90 seconds. And so if you can do something in under 90 seconds that's going to save you 8 hours of work, that's not a bad way to start and get rid of that blank page. You're still going to, of course, you're still going to make it better.
Before we go on to, because I want to talk about what it really is good for, but Nick came to our innovation event in Texas and did a wonderful keynote that had similar graphics to this, which is bringing back my 80s vibe. I'm loving. And then he did a team building exercise with us that let people get hands-on. And you want to talk about how much good stuff was generated in 1 hour during that team building?
It was crazy. I mean, in 1 hour, we rebranded an event, gave it a new tagline, created a menu, a mission statement, all those things. And each team was able to do that. It would take normally committees and meetings and et cetera. And what they had in that hour was really good. I would say ultimately maybe as good as an agency who has to try to figure out what we do in the first place would have done anyway. And then this is the bit that I'm always excited about. Then they all then threw in their ideas based on their own experiences for the team. So the AI took it from 0 to 60, and they took it from 60 to 100 or whatever the number is. And they all brought something human and different to the table, but they didn't start from scratch. Because normally they would have been like, what is a tagline, or what makes a good tag? That stuff was all, the skeleton was done. They just filled it in, and they filled it in with their unique perspectives. And some of the ideas they had were just, I mean, they're going to be done, I think. Like the Search Foundation is actually going to use some of it.
As are we, yeah.
Yeah, the kaleidoscope was do you know a group of butterflies is called a kaleidoscope?
Or a flutter.
That is amazing.
I mean, crows really
I'm
have
happy
it
today.
bad.
I can leave here happy now.
Jeez. Yeah, so like it was really, really creative, and the creativity didn't come from AI. The AI gave them room to be creative.
And I think for me, so I was one of the judges, and what stood out was the bifurcation. So even though all of them had the same tools, the same hour, the same number of people, there were some that did the job, and there were some that were so creative. The menu items were named after the theme, and the colors, and all the senses were covered. So once you start, you can take it as high as you want, and that's maybe where we're going to get to the B to the A+, because I love that part of your talk.
Yeah, so this is essentially my thesis, is that right now, this is us. None of you have ever hit A+. You just haven't been given the resources to do it. Sorry, you never hit A+ ever in your life. Sad to say that, but I really believe it. Just because, again, no, I don't think anyone here has surplus income, surplus staff, et cetera. You're always, given half of what you need to succeed, and you do really great with what that is. But if you had more, you would do more. That's where you're at right now. It's a slow way to get to B+. Then there's I think the next slide is the competition. I guess that's not there. But the competition is people that get to B+ much faster. Like that's the people that are using AI but don't know what you know. And then to get to A+, you have all of these things once you use an AI to get you there faster, and you don't stop there, because I think the majority of people designing with AI moving forward are going to stop. I guess we're at time.
Copy, paste.
Yeah, copy and paste. So these are the things that we need in order to get to the A+. I think we're at time, actually. Are we? Yeah. I think that's what that sign says. Yeah, so...
Can you just describe prompt engineering real fast? Because I think this is so important.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you want to advance to the end too, they can have I can give them a bunch of prompt engineering with a QR code. Yeah, so it's basically prompt engineering is garbage in, garbage out, or you're really creative, you're really interesting minds in, and then interesting stuff out. It really matters who's using ChatGPT. So all of you are going to keep your jobs. All of you are going to thrive because you're going to ask better questions than everybody else is. You're going to be able to put more in, and you're going to think things that nobody else would. So, like, why would someone follow something and be interested in someone that puts something into AI? It's because what you add to it will make the outcome completely unique in you. Like, you're still a big part of the equation. And all of us, if you bring your passion to this, there's a place for you, and there's a place for you, especially if you're looking to, thrive.
And if you want to learn more about AI, I think there's going to be a lot of it at IMEX this year, both Frankfurt and America, right, in Las Vegas. And if you want that white paper, you can also come up and grab one of these magazines, or you can go there to download the white paper for free. Cool. Are we really out of time? I could talk to these
Thanks.
people forever and ever and ever.
Y'all, thank you so much. One more huge round of applause for our panelists up here. I'm sure they're making themselves accessible, right? So catch them on the way out. This has been a really engaging session. Thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow at the Northwest Event Show as well, all right?